Welcome to the quietest ones in the room with your host, Trey. I gotta say it, just the mere fact that you've clicked onto this video and you're listening to the sound of my voice, you by far are the most intelligent people on the face of the planet. So once again, thank you for joining me. We must talk about this. This is something that I personally experience in my life regularly. And it's the reality that I come across too many people who have gotten laid off their jobs. And for many of these people, it's really a traumatic experience. Getting laid off is not fun because honestly, depending on your skill set, you're truly not certain how the market that you're in is going to allow you to find something quickly. I know someone as of recent who it took them 5 months until they found a new job. That person knew someone where it took almost 8 months to find a job. I personally know people where it took a year or more to find employment. And so it's alarming because I recall when I did work in corporate America, it's been 6 years for me now, sober from corporate America, 6 years. And I recall even at that time when I was in the tech space, that jumping from job to job every 2 to 3 years was a normal occurrence. And during COVID, it became even more of an occurrence because people were looking for more pay. And so they were jumping from smaller companies to larger companies, from larger companies to smaller companies, just to get that boost in income because quantitative easing and money was being printed and it was cheap to lend and borrow money. So companies had so much money to pay employees at the time. So people were jumping. It was a common practice that every 2 to 3 years, you should jump ship. But now that the roles have reversed and the money's getting tighter and tighter, that same game is no longer being played. But companies now have more of the power to catch and release individuals back into the wild every 2 to 3 years. So the power dynamic has shifted. And I recall when I did work in corporate America, that unnerving reality that every fiscal year, there needed to be some fat cut. And so we do live in a society where it's been normalized to see companies like Meta and companies like Microsoft and companies like Amazon and Tesla and these major companies cut fat every year just to improve their revenues for investors. Because they have that responsibility every year to make more and more money at the expense of you. And don't get it twisted. A lot of these layoffs, and in particular the person that I know recently who just found a job after 5 months, they didn't work in the tech space. No. Civil engineer, took 5 months for them to find work. So again, it's a normal occurrence. And I wanted to point out two things that I noticed in the last couple of days. May 1st, to be exact, I think it was actually the day before May 1st, the last day of April. And there was poor news regarding job creation, and there was news about GDP shrinking. And the market reacted to it negatively. So people once again started calling for the crash of all time, and the recession is here. Blase, blase, blase. All this talk about recession. As I mentioned, some people are like, we're either already in a recession or we're going into a recession. And I have to say that I was going to post some comments, a video about it, but I decided I wanted to talk about something else. And here we are today, where the U.S. payroll growth totals 177,000 in April, defying expectations. And boom, the market exploded today. And I often say the ability of mass media to create fear is miraculous, astounding that people continually fall for the fear-based tactic in that, oh, I'm not going to purchase a home. Oh, I'm not going to get this car. Oh, I'm not going to take this trip. Oh, I'm not. All these things that you think about you are fearful of doing because you saw some headlines is a part of the game. But also, there's the reality that, as I'm discussing, in real life, people get laid off. There are real life struggles taking place. And in all of this, the point that I really wanted to get to in this conversation, as it pertains to jobs and what I see in my day-to-day of people struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, while also knowing individuals where money is not an issue, who purchased vehicles once the tariffs were announced, who bought homes when the tariffs were announced. And so seeing that opposition in terms of reality for many people that I know and come across, I wanted to say something that's really important, and I think it needs to be addressed. President Donald Trump has been requesting that Jerome Powell lower interest rates. And if I hadn't said it before, I want to say it again. If Jerome Powell does not lower interest rates, he's a clown. And the reason he is a clown if he does not is because if you recall during COVID, at a time when a group of people were at risk of losing much more than they could actually stand to, the Federal Reserve came in and lowered interest rates and printed money. And it was a bailout. It stimulated the economy. And what I'm saying right now is based off of the amount of jobs being created, the unemployment rate, it's kind of stable, but the amount of people that I hear in my personal life being laid off, people living from paycheck to paycheck, and companies like Square Block as of recently showing how their revenues haven't grown as expected, which to me is tied to the consumer space. And so if Jerome Powell does not lower interest rates, you don't get a type of bailout that you need. The economy doesn't get the type of bailout that it needs for assets to keep rising, for jobs to keep being able to borrow money and then pay more in wages and hire more people. It's stimulative as the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates. See, but we're also in a dilemma because it increases the wealth gap. But it's also necessary. So oftentimes I'm torn by it, but I know it needs to be done because it's a short-term fix to a major problem in this country. And Jerome Powell does need to get on board and lower interest rates because people are struggling. And I also am always reminded that there is so much wealth in this country that if the wealthy decide not to sit on their hands and actually spend, they have more than enough to do it for a long time. And that's why I kind of find some of these tariff conversations humorous in some sense, because people don't really understand the amount of wealth We're talking about 100 trillion plus of wealth in this country. And so the wealth is here. If the regular everyday person can't spend, there's money still around to spend. But the truth is as I mentioned before, the rich don't get rich off the rich. The rich get rich off poor. They need you to get some extra spending money so you can spend your money on their products and their services. Rent from them. Mortgage from them. Get an auto loan from them. Buy now, pay later from them. You see? So it's a frustrating system, but Jerome Powell's got to lower the interest rate. Because even with these job creation numbers of 177,000, it's still lower than the 185 that was expected, even though the Dow Jones was estimating 133,000 and it surpassed that. And this article even goes on to say that the unemployment rate, however, stayed at 4.2% as expected, indicating the labor market is holding relatively stable. You must inhale, exhale on some of these things. Because again, and matter of fact, too many people are living paycheck to paycheck and struggling. And you can say, even if we're talking about jobs, you can say, oh, if they haven't found a job, it's because they're not looking hard enough. Oh, if they haven't found a job, it's because they're lazy. All these different excuses you can come up for regarding these situations, but you might be next. Look at how the government employees started reacting when Trump was like, I'm cutting positions. When Doge came through, I'm cutting, like, what's last in this, what's last in that. People who felt that security started to feel vulnerable. Everyone can get it now. Everyone, no matter what your position is, you can lose your job. We're in a different time right now. So anyhow, please share your thoughts in the comment section. Maybe you've recently been laid off. What are you going to do about it? Maybe you know someone who's been looking. It's been months upon months upon months. They don't know how they're going to pay their bills. Maybe you know someone in that situation. What have you been telling them? Do you think that the economy is going to get better? Do you think that Jerome Powell needs to lower interest rates? Are you fine with where they are? Did you just buy a house? Did you just get a car? Are you doing the buy now, pay later? I'm curious. Please share in the comment section what you got going on, what your thoughts are about what I mentioned. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time.